My name is Natasha. In 2013, I got pregnant with my firstborn, and everything was going really well during the pregnancy. There were no problems. I was healthy. I was feeling good. And then at 23 weeks and 6 days, I started getting some pains, and I thought it was the Braxton, I thought it was early contractions. Hicks. Um, and I didn't think much of it. I went to work and I noticed later that I was bleeding and rushed to a hospital nearby. And they told me that I was bleeding too much. And I, I was then put into an ambulance. The hospital I was at did not have a labor and delivery department. So I was put into an ambulance and rushed to the nearest hospital that did have a L&D department. And then there they were telling me that I was going into labor. And at first it sounded like there were things they could do to slow down the process. So they talked about giving me something to maybe delay it by a couple of weeks. Um, it would have meant that I would stay in the hospital, but the baby would get a couple of more weeks in the womb. And quickly later, like I think it was like just an hour later, they were saying that there was nothing that could be done. The baby was gonna be born. And at that point, I don't think I even realized what that meant. I just thought I would have a very small baby. It didn't cross my mind that, we were talking about, whether the baby would survive or not, or whether he would have health problems or not. I think I was a little naive. I had purposely skipped all those, the last few pages of the book, what to expect when you're expecting all the bad part, because I told myself I'll read them if something comes up. But of course, at that point, there was no time for information to be gathered. So when I was in labor and almost at the point of delivering, the doctors explained to us, my husband and I, that a baby that is born before 24 weeks is very unlikely to survive, and that if he does survive, it comes with a myriad of problems like cerebral palsy and all sorts of other things. And they also told us that prior to 24 weeks of gestations, it's up to the parents to decide whether or not the doctor should try to save the child. After 24 weeks, they do try it, but before 24 weeks, it's up to us to decide. And I just felt like it was a lot to ask of me to make that decision while going through labor and being in pain, and just learning about this without being able, to spend hours researching what it meant. And so we didn't it was very difficult, and I wasn't really mentally prepared to do that because I was in pain. I just was concentrating on those contractions. So my husband ended up like leaving the room to call a couple of friends who had gone through similar experiences and like pull the doctor aside and ask what he would do if it was his child. And I remember at one point telling my husband, if the baby is gonna have all sorts of health problems, I don't think we should save him. And to this day, I feel very ashamed of that thought that I had. I feel it's hard for me to even share it. At the end of the day, we did try to do everything we could to save him, and I'm glad that my husband kind of came in and made that decision, because today I know that at least we tried, which of course is not everyone is able to do that, but it makes me feel better that we tried. But so Leonardo was born, and he was quiet when he was born, and I was very concerned, which in a way is a little comical because I knew he wasn't gonna make it, but it concerned me that he was quiet. And the doctors told me that his lungs weren't developed enough, so he couldn't produce any sounds. They tried. It's like at the moment, it just seemed like there was like a swarm of doctors who went to him, and I feel like they were with him for maybe like 2 minutes or five, I don't know. And then they told us there's nothing we could do, and they placed him on my chest, and I got to hold him for about an hour, and he passed away in my arms.